We've all heard them. Famous Miranda warnings, you know. And we've also seen all the steps that the police have to take in order to effectively make an arrest and possibly get into the court. But few people actually know where these rights and warnings come from or why we have practices set in place. This ignorance is unacceptable in our society. It can create a situation in which where we as a people might be put into a situation where we will be wrongfully convicted of a crime, or someone who is not, or someone who is guilty gets to walk away free. It's something that we cannot accept as a society and must change. Currently being a criminal justice major, I have more information about the subject than most people, and I've done extensive research into basic rights throughout criminal justice. I've also received the Kiwanis Club's Criminal Justice Award for the 2016-17 year last year at my high school. One of the most important cases in which information about individual rights was discovered was in the Warren Court, which ran in the 60s. It was the Supreme Court of the United States, and they clarified many of the rights given in the U.S. Constitution. During this presentation, I will briefly cover three of the most important Warren courtroom cases: Mapp v. Ohio, Gideon v. Wainwright, and Miranda v. Arizona. Now, to begin, we'll look at the first court case of the Warren Court, Mapp v. Ohio. Mapp v. Ohio brought in the use of the exclusionary rule. The basics of what happened in the court case was that Mapp was believed to have been harboring a fugitive. The police came there. She consulted with her attorney over the phone, and the attorney said, "Do not let them in without a warrant." So they left, and then they got a warrant, came back, showed her the paper, and then barged in. They eventually wrestled the paper back from her, and then they found many incriminating information in the room and arrested her. The problem here was the paper was not actually a warrant. We don't know what the paper was, because when presented about it in the Supreme Court, the defense and prosecution just pushed it off to the side, and the Supreme Court did not push it. So because of the result of this, the Warren Court ruled on the 1961 case of Mapp that the evidence discovered and subsequent conviction of Daugherty Mapp were illegal. So then Mapp was able to walk away, despite the fact that the law had been broken. Before Mapp, the police could pretty much just walk in without much of any warrant at all, if any, and just get away with it. And as the Duke Law Journal stated, of all the two-faced problems in the law, there is none more tormenting than the admissibility of illegally obtained evidence. This is still a problem today in some cases, but because of the Warren Court's decision, it is much more likely to happen. The biggest issue was the fact that the police could do whatever they wanted and didn't act to protect and serve. They are acting more in their best interest to get the extra dollar to get the raise. Now that we're done talking about the first initial case, Mapp v. Ohio, let's talk about Gideon v. Wainwright, another influential case. Gideon v. Wainwright clarified the rights involved in attorneys being involved in the courtroom. Okay. Gideon v. Wainwright was essentially started out with a man being arrested because it was easy. Gideon was arrested because he was a homeless man near an area where a robbery had occurred. Police arrested him with very little evidence, if at all, and then he was subsequently convicted. When he asked the courts for an attorney, they said, "We are not required to give you an attorney." He kept appealing until he eventually made it to the Supreme Court, in which eventually ruled in favor of him in 1963, which involved in attorneys being required in all courtrooms. Before this point, most of the courts said that it is only required for major crimes, not a misdemeanor like he was charged with. Now finally, we'll talk about the most controversial court case, Miranda v. Arizona. This is where the Miranda rights come from. They were created from this case, and they're as follows. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you. You can decide at any time if you wish to not exercise these rights and not answer questions or make any statements. Do you understand each of these rights I have explained to you? Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now? Police are required to say this now because of Miranda. Ernesto Miranda was arrested in for the rape of an 18-year-old woman based only on circumstantial evidence. As according to the page 153 of the book, Criminal Justice, a brief introduction, which was authored by Frank Schmalinger in 2014. After they had arrested and started interrogating Miranda, they did not give him knowledge of his rights to an attorney or to remain silent. So they grilled him for 2 hours, in which case he finally admitted to the rape of the 18-year-old woman. But then later, through his attorney, he argued that since the police did not inform him of his rights, that he should walk through. And the Warren Court's decision in '66 agreed with him. He got off scot-free from the rape charges since he did not have an attorney present. Because of this, because of the lack of reading and the lack of protocol on the police's part, we now have Miranda warnings to guarantee every person their rights. Now, let you know some of your basic rights in the greater detail. It is time for you to go out and exercise these rights. Okay. The Warren Court's decision on matters of constitutional rights helped to clarify many of the amendments in the U.S. Constitution and make sure individual rights are better understood in the system today. We have briefly gone over Met v. Ohio, Keating v. Wainwright, and Rand v. Arizona, as they occurred in the courtroom. As you go about your life in the U.S., make sure your rights of due process aren't violated in any way. That way, if you are innocent, you are not proven guilty. Thank you.